In the last few years, since Paris, Texas, Berlin has been the place where I've stopped off. I started to feel at home there, despite the fact that I see the city with the eyes of someone who's spent a lot of time away. Until now, the stories in my films were told from the point of view of a main character. This time I rejected the idea of some returning hero who rediscovers Berlin and Germany for himself. I couldn't imagine the character through whose eyes I might see Berlin. I really don't know what gave me the idea of angels. One day I wrote angels in my notebook, and the next day, the unemployed. Maybe it was because I was reading Rilke at the time, nothing to do with films, and realizing how much of his writing is inhabited by angels. Reading Rilke every night, perhaps I got used to the idea of angels being around. After a while, I began to doubt whether it would amount to a film. I tried to push the idea away, but it was never quite extinguished. I filled a whole notebook, but it still didn't add up to a film. Usually a line emerges that enables you to fix on the characters and their relationships, but with angels, you could do anything. There were connections all over the place. You could go anywhere. You could cross the Berlin Wall, pass through windows into people's houses, and anyone was hero of a potential film. It was scary. There was too much freedom for the imagination. More so because there were going to be several angels. Berlin is still governed by the four powers, so I thought you might have four angels: American, British, French, and Russian. But that made it too schematic. Then, for a time, the angels were ex-airmen, a kind of aviators club, like in Howard Hawks' Only Angels Have Wings. By and by, we boiled it down to what mattered, what the angels see. The story is told from the angel's point of view, but how do you show what angels see? There was also another starting point for Wings of Desire. At the end of Paris, Texas, there's a scene between Nastasha and little Hunter in the hotel. He goes to his mother. She takes him in her arms. There was something liberating about that scene for me. It was a feeling I was sure would have repercussions on my next film, whatever it was. So, I badly wanted to have a woman as the main character. For a long time, I wondered about making one of the angels female. But I wanted this angel to become human, and I thought it was more interesting to have the human being a woman and the angel a man who accepts mortality for her sake. I wanted to start filming in the autumn, but there was no screenplay ready. I always feel a kind of block about writing anything that's meant to turn into a scene. I tell myself that if I write it, it'll be ruined as a scene, because there'll be nothing left to invent. The angels had to speak poetically, so language became especially important. Having made 4 films in English, I wanted to return to my mother tongue, and I wanted the dialogues to be particularly beautiful. I called my archangel Peter Handke. He had just finished a novel and said, "I'm completely drained. I don't have any words left in me. Everything I had is in the novel." But then he added, "Maybe if you come down here and tell me your story, then I can help you out with a few scenes, but no more, nothing structural, no screenplay." I drove down to Salzburg to see him and told him all I knew about my angels. We spent a week thinking up a dozen situations in a possible plot, and Peter started writing on the basis of that. Every week through September, I'd get an envelope full of dialogue without direction or description. There was no contact between us. He wrote, and I prepared the film. There was a growing gulf between the work Peter was doing in Salzburg and the film that was taking shape in Berlin, in discussions with the actors and the physical preparations. Peter's scenes, though beautiful and poetic, were like monoliths from heaven. But they didn't fit. There was a complete discord between his dialogues, the scenes we envisaged, and the locations we decided on. Preparations for the production were not yet complete, and the sets not ready. The angels had no costumes, no makeup, nothing. We began filming, beginning with the children right at the start. I was convinced that if we went on preparing, we'd lose everything. Yes, we'll know exactly what we're doing, but it'll mean we'll make a worked-out film. Being in a state of confusion will force us to find something for the angels. The idea for the film had suggested itself to me in black and white. Berlin needed that, and so did the angels. They were unable to touch things. They didn't know the physical world, and so it was logical that they had no colors either. Also, black and white is associated with the world of dreams.